Hi class, it's Dea, and I wanted to discuss a show that I felt was significant and impactful to our culture, and kind of more specifically my niche and demographic as a 20-year-old woman. So I wanted to discuss the show called Girls. It is an HBO series in the early 2000s. It's made by Judd Apatow, and many of you may know who Lena Dunham is. I love this show because I think it has great feminist representation without really going into the conversation about being a feminist show. So, one of the great things that I think comes up in this show a lot is that just culturally, it talks a lot about women and kind of more like left side politics. But instead of being a show that's geared about feminist, it's just a show that really looks into the lives at the main character, who's played by Lena Dunham, and her other girlfriends. And so the show really, like, in most mainstream media, we see a lot of shows created about men, and that's kind of the norm. And you have women characters that stand to be the sex symbol or kind of just the butt of the joke in a lot of older movies and TV shows. Whereas this show is set up so that those are just the characters. I think that this show has a huge cultural reset because in a lot of ways this show is kind of graphic and a little bit gross. So the main character, Hannah Horvath, is just not meant to be shown as like this glamorized woman. She's just supposed to be shown as like the nitty gritty normal human being. So the show really goes into talking about mental health issues, her relationships with other women, and kind of her unconventional romantic relationships with men. And the show discusses a lot about sexuality, what it's like kind of for millennials getting jobs and stuff like that. And I think the show overall is just very culturally significant towards women like me because it shows that media can be about women without focusing on glamorizing our lives or over comparing ourselves to one another. And I think another great thing about this show is that the main character has OCD, Hannah Horvath, and OCD is not something that has ever really shown in mainstream media aside from people talking about how they have OCD because they're very clean or things have to be a specific way, when that's just not the reality of what having obsessive compulsive disorder actually is. And this show really dabbles into the struggles of a woman who's compulsive and very normal emotions that all women experience, but in the media can be portrayed as crazy or out of the box. Another thing that I think is very culturally significant about this show is that it was made by Judd Apatow. So if you know who Judd Apatow is, you know that most of the kind of early 2010 Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill movies, that specific niche, those are all made by Judd Apatow. And those oftentimes are the movies where you see men having the leading role and women kind of serving a different purpose in that show. But I just think it's amazing that he teamed up with women to make a show about women in the exact same way that he would make a show about men. So that's why I love that show and why I think it's specifically culturally very impactful to not just me, but a lot of other women. And I think it kind of sets the tone for a lot of other directors and film producers who have seen it and understand that media can be about women in a way where they don't serve the purpose as giving necessarily like a message. Thank you.